Now it's time for Culture Talk. This is the segment where we talk about the intersection of science, faith, and pop culture and how culturally relevant topics can be used to start conversations about your faith. We are joined by Grant Gates. Welcome, Hi. Grant. Thank you so much for joining us. So you are in your last semester about to receive your MDiv, right?
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm glad to have you here. I want to just talk about the blog post that I saw. So on your blog, it's Citizens and Sons. You had written a really cool article tying together Marie Kondo's tidying up with Romans 1. Like that was really cool. So first, let's dive into the show. For those who aren't familiar, Marie Kondo's tidying up. What is that?
So Marie Kondo is just really good at organizing her stuff. Mm-hmm. And she came over and took a system that kind of her family had developed over a long time for cleaning things up and kind of reducing the amount of stuff you have to improve your connection with your stuff, and started teaching it to people in the US. And after writing a book, she got a show on Netflix where she goes into these family homes or family apartments and teaches them how to use her method to reorganize their lives. That's great.
Yeah, and you know, it's really hugely popular. You've seen people probably on Facebook or social media saying, you know, I KonMari'd my dresser today, or I have huge bags of stuff to give to the thrift store. And it's all kind of sparked because of this show, Tidying Up. But it also has some Eastern practices. So can you explain what we see on the show?
Yeah, so what I saw as I watched it is that the first time she visits a family home, no matter whose home it is, she takes some time to get down and kneel on the floor, and it's very much like our like traditional prayer position. And then she takes some time to thank the house, and she thanks the house for being a good home. And then later in the show as well, whenever they're going through the items that they're going to get rid of, they pick up each item that they no longer want and they thank it for its service, and then they put it aside. So these just struck me as foreign and unusual. I wouldn't do this, but I could tell it came from a lot of the traditional Eastern practices and sort of like Shinto and spiritualism type things.
Right. And so it was this kind of fascinating show to see that, you know, some very good things that we would say as Christians. It's very good to be responsible with our possessions and to not accumulate things for the sake of, you know, maybe having more than the Joneses. But then these other practices of thanking our house and thanking our objects, that kind of raised some eyebrows, right? Yeah,
I think there are people who would kind of overreact and maybe try to turn off the show because of that. But I think most of us just felt it was a little weird. But if you stop and ask yourself, why does she do that? It's not really just because she's Japanese or just because she comes from that tradition. It's because in the human heart, we have to worship something and we have to give gratitude to something. Right. So instead of directing that attention and that glory to the creator, she's redirecting that to the creation, to the item. And that's kind of the connection to Romans 1.
Yeah. So delve into that connection, the connection of Romans 1 and how we understand that desire to give gratitude.
Yeah, at the beginning of Romans, Paul's making an argument for why everyone is sinful and everyone needs a savior. Nobody can work their way into heaven. Nobody can justify themselves and be right with the law. So first he starts with a general category of every nation but the Jews. And he starts by arguing that everybody can look around at creation and see God made this. There's a God who did this, and you need to be thankful to him. But instead, they directed that gratitude, that worship to the creation instead. Their foolish hearts were darkened. And that's kind of what you see naturally happen whenever somebody directs their gratitude at their house instead of the God who gave them their house, or their gratitude at their clothes instead of the God who gave them their clothes. They're following that natural sinful tendency to worship the creature rather than the creator.
Right. And, you know, we see that all throughout the Bible. I think of Luke 12:15 specifically, where we talk about just having gratitude and being mindful of the possessions that we have, and to not, again, like over accumulate things, that we are to be good stewards of our time, of our resources, and our finances. And I think shows like Tidying Up are great reminders in that sense, that we do want to declutter and kind of get rid of things that maybe we haven't been good stewards with our resources, reallocate those somewhere else, and then we have more time and space even in a house to maybe be hospitable to guests, or have more resources too to then give to charities, or to give more time rather than spending your time just drowning in possessions, right?
Yeah, of course. And I think that's one of the biggest positives of her show, is that it has that natural impact on people's lives to help them live better lives. Yeah. All I wrote about is trying to think about, why are you doing what you're doing? And how can that tie into a greater purpose as well?
So if we're talking to someone who is really excited about this show and really excited about cleaning their house, like, how would you have that conversation about the creator and the creation or creature, and, you know, a Christian view of decluttering and tidying up?
Yeah, so I think first it's worth just enjoying the show with people like that. It's a fun show to watch, and I still have trouble putting my finger on why it's so fun to watch people declutter their homes, but like, I haven't found someone who's been bored by this show yet. So take some time to enjoy it with them before you do anything else. But I think they know that they're not just thankful to the item for existing. Everyone naturally has some sort of sense of God. And so whatever you can do to say, hey, this gratitude you're directing at the item, you know that's not 100% directed at the item. You know that's not rational to say, I'm thankful to my shirt for existing. You know it would be rational to say someone gave me that shirt. And so whenever you can do that to make sort of an emotive argument that your gratitude has to come from somewhere, and that comes from your innate sense of God, that's going to help open doors and open conversations for the gospel.
Thank you so much for that, Grant, and thank you for your insight on the show. If you'd like to hear more about just thinking deeply about what's affecting our world today, visit reasons.org and search Reflections. Now we're going to head over to Give and Take, and Jeff will be talking about why we would have ice ages. Let's check it out.